She got fired because of twerking at her job. She put that extra, let's just call it unwanted flavor on food. And this cop loved to twerk too, as evident in a rap video she was in. Let's find out the worst people we'd love to have less of. Starting with number 6, right to twerk. Nell Diala from San Francisco, California, lost her dream job as a flight attendant with Alaska Airlines after posting a TikTok video of herself twerking on an empty plane. She insists that her firing was unfair and possibly discriminatory, but the airline stands by its social media policy. Was she just having some fun, or did she break professional boundaries? Diala's video, videoed at 6 a.m. while waiting for the captain, was meant to be a personal victory dance, celebrating the end of her probation period. In the now private clip, she captioned it, "Ghetto be till I die. Don't let the uniform fool you." While she saw it as a harmless way to hype herself up for the day, her employer, who was apparently fooled by the uniform, disagreed. So they fired her just 6 months into her contract, citing a violation of their social media policy. Feeling blindsided, Diala expressed her frustration in an interview, saying she didn't think a happy moment turned into something so drastic. She also suggested that her firing was racially motivated, claiming the company embraces all cultures, but excluded, in her words, the minority girl from the ghetto. She later set up a GoFundMe, which raised over $3,000 to help her through the sudden job loss. But the story doesn't end there. Diala wasn't just a flight attendant. She was also an entrepreneur. She used her airline earnings to fund her lingerie and dessert businesses, which she continues to promote. Losing her airline job was a setback, but she's pushing forward, turning to social media and crowdfunding to make up for lost income. It makes us wonder, though, was Alaska Airlines justified in firing her, or did they overreact? Big companies do have social media policies, and she knew about them before signing on, but was a celebratory, albeit inappropriate, dance really worth immediate termination? It's not as if she was doing it on a passenger or in full view of boarding travelers. And let's be real, would seeing that video on social media somehow undermine the entire profession? We highly doubt any of the passengers she was attending to would know or care if that was on her social media, as long as she was good at her job. On the other hand, is it unreasonable for an airline to expect employees to follow social media policies, especially while in uniform? Regardless of how inappropriate the dance was, it did violate company policy, and at the end of the day, she was representing Alaska Airlines. They warned her about this, and she did it anyway. So who do you think is in the wrong? All that aside, credit where it's due, Diala wasn't just relying on her job. She was building something on her own, and entrepreneurship deserves respect. But why does it seem like, for so many women, entrepreneurship often means OnlyFans, lingerie businesses, or industries that capitalize on self-objectification? Is this female empowerment, using what they've got, or just the easiest way to monetize attention? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Number 5, ruining health food. Kelli Tedford, a 23-year-old from New Hampshire, was arrested after police discovered footage of her doing a number 1 on food items at a local grocery store, which is already pretty bad, but as it turns out, this was far from her first time. Police found multiple videos Tedford herself had posted online, capturing her repeatedly contaminating groceries and store surfaces with her own pee. Her unsettling habit apparently stretched back at least 4 years, with authorities believing similar incidents likely occurred in Keene and surrounding areas. The investigation began after someone anonymously tipped off police about Tedford's disturbing online content. Security footage from the Monadnock Food Co-op, a community-focused grocery store in Keene, New Hampshire, confirmed the incident, showing her casually relieving herself on walnuts. Walnuts that unfortunately ended up in customers' carts. Following her arrest, the co-op voluntarily recalled several affected items, including walnuts, quinoa, oatmeal, cornmeal, and apparently anything else healthy enough to deserve punishment. Despite the disgusting nature of the situation, as of the release of this video, Tedford is facing only a single felony charge for criminal mischief, though police said additional charges were likely to follow. Released on her own recognizance, she's scheduled for court arraignment in early 2025. Authorities continue reviewing Tedford's extensive collection of gross footage, which goes back 4 years, suggesting that this is the tip of the big yellow iceberg. Seriously, we don't know what platform she was on, why she was doing this, why she had filmed it, or how she did it for 4 years and no one noticed. We really can't make any sense of this at all. All we know is that if you're going to do a #1 on food and you get caught, you're in for it. Boom! This is the exact kind of crazy society needs less of. Number 4, complete selfishness. Skylar Pollard from Battle Creek, Michigan had one job: catch her Spirit Airlines flight at Miami International Airport. There was just one problem. She was late. Normally, being late for your flight means you book another flight, but Pollard wasn't going to have none of that sensibleness. Instead of just accepting she was late, she blasted through security and boarded the plane anyway. And by the way, don't forget to click that subscribe button, and make sure you also click the bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss any critical knowledge to defend yourself. Anyways, Spirit Airlines employees were understandably confused and asked her to leave and go through the proper security procedures for everyone's safety. But Pollard wasn't interested in playing by any rules she didn't just make up right then and there. So she stayed put, and the police were called. When they arrived, she still refused to deplane, even after they gave her a trespass warning. She still refused and turned her tardiness into a full-blown headache for everyone else on board. Since she bypassed standard security procedures, there was a security risk. An airport protocol required clearing the plane and rescreening passengers to ensure no prohibited items were brought on board. So authorities had to remove every passenger from the plane before finally arresting Pollard. That's right, because one person refused to take responsibility for their own poor time management. An entire flight of people had to shuffle off and start over. The arrest report noted that this little stunt disrupted airport scheduling and operations, because of course it did. Spirit Airlines flights already had a bit of a reputation for being a struggle, but having someone hijack the boarding process certainly didn't make things any smoother. Pollard was booked into jail, and there's no word on whether she eventually made it to her destination. But seriously, the last thing this society needs is more selfish people deciding to make their lateness everyone else's problem. The thing is, she probably would have only been a few hours later just hopping on the next flight, and probably caused herself an even bigger delay. Number 3, playing time. Annoying football dad Daryl Clemens from St. Louis, Missouri, was found guilty of blasting a volunteer youth football coach. And it wasn't because there was anything bad going on. It was because Clemens' son wasn't getting enough time on the field. Clemens, 45, took issue with how volunteer coach Shaquille Lattimore, 34, was handling his kids' playing time for the City Rec Legends Football League. And apparently, the best way to resolve that, in Clemens' mind, was to pull a firearm and pop off 5 rounds in front of a group of 9 and 10-year-old kids. The two men had already been arguing over the playing time issue when things escalated. Both were armed because, why wouldn't both men be armed when coaching kids playing football? It's like we're the crazy ones for thinking that firearms should be nowhere near a bunch of kids playing a sport. But that's just us. Seriously, what is this world coming to? Anyway, the coach, Shaquille Lattimore, thought they could settle things with an old-fashioned fistfight, as you would expect at Pee Wee football practice, and handed his firearm to a friend, like a responsible adult. Well, that didn't sit well with Clemens, who, despite being 11 years older, was far less responsible and rejected the idea of a fair fight outright. Instead, he drew his firearm and fired at Lattimore multiple times. Clemens didn't just stop at just popping off rounds either. He also taunted Lattimore as he lay on the ground, only leaving once other adults intervened. After fleeing the scene, Clemens later turned himself into police. During the trial, Clemens tried to argue self-defense, but that didn't clearly make any sense at all when the jury heard that Lattimore was unarmed and already down when Clemens continued aggressively self-defending. As of the release of this video, Clemens has been convicted and is waiting to be sentenced. Fortunately, Shaquille Lattimore survived and seems to be doing okay. Understandably, the whole ordeal left an entire group of kids traumatized after watching their coach get blasted right in front of them by their teammate's dad. Seriously, it's one thing to be all in on your child's hobby or sports team, we get that. Be their #1 fan every time. But there's a difference between being passionate about your kid's success and being the kind of person who turns a kid's football game into a crime scene. If you can't handle something as trivial as playing time without putting people's lives at risk, you don't belong at practice. You belong somewhere where you can't hurt anyone else. Number 2, #1 menace. For 6 years, an unidentified figure known as the Piss Bandit has been making their presence known in Pasadena's affluent neighborhoods. And what is his signature move? Dropping off bottles, cartons, and even gallon jugs filled with pee on a particular utility box before vanishing into the night. The pee bottles aren't just left at random. Each one is carefully arranged, sometimes decorated with unsettling messages such as human urine or crude drawings. The bandit has been at it for so long that the utility box has permanent rings etched into the paint from years of bottle placements. City officials tried to fight back by installing a metal pyramid cover to deter the bandit, but he was determined, and something as simple as a metal cover won't foil him. So it was torn off, and the deliveries continued as usual. The city tried again. This time he dented it on the sides to make it a flat area and left his little treasures again. Filmmakers Grant Yansura and Derek Milton decided to investigate. What started as a curiosity project turned into a full-blown case, with their first TikTok video on the bandit gaining hundreds of thousands of views. They saw the whole thing as performance art, calling the bandit a vigilante artist rather than a vandal, which is a bit of mental gymnastics, right? Pee bottles. Calling it art is a bit of a stretch. Residents of Pasadena felt the same way. One former homeowner called it disgusting, while another left a handwritten warning threatening retaliation if they ever caught the bandit in the act. It was probably as creative as you'd expect. Determined to uncover the mystery, Yansura and Milton set up an infrared game camera near the drop site. The footage showed a gloved hand carefully placing bottles over a barrier wall methodically, nay, artistically, arranging them like candles on a birthday cake. Hoping to get a response, the filmmakers left a note, comparing the bandit's work to well-known street artists such as Banksy and Shepard Fairey, known for their rebellious and politically charged artwork. But the bandit, not one to fall for the trappings of fame, since his art is far more important, ignored the message and stole their camera instead. When they checked the cloud storage, the camera had sent back a scenic seaside photo from San Diego, more than 100 miles from Pasadena. After setting up another camera with a voice intercom to try to communicate, the bandit ignored their efforts and stole that one too. With no progress and another lost camera, Yansura and Milton decided to walk away. They never figured out who was behind the mysterious deliveries, and the bandit never gave them any answers. At some point, they figured it was time to move on, and it seems the P-Bandit has as well. As of the release of this video, his masterpiece appears complete, with no more bottles left behind. But he's still out there, dear viewer. So if you hear bottles clinking late at night, and catch that scent of fresh pee, beware, the P-Bandit may be near. Number 1. Right to Twerk 2. Melissa Mercado, a detective with NYPD's Bronx Special Victims Unit, is in the spotlight, but not for solving cases. The 7-year veteran of the force appeared in a rap music video where she was seen pole dancing and scantily clad and twerking. The video, tied to rapper Esquire's song Doin' That, quickly went viral, leaving people debating whether Mercado's actions were a private matter or a violation of professional standards. Mercado, who earns $144,000 a year, wasn't identified in the video itself, but law enforcement sources confirmed her identity. Reactions have been mixed. Some argue that what she does off-duty is nobody's business, while others believe her role as a detective means she should maintain a certain image. One social media user summed up the latter argument. Whether on duty or not, she has an image to uphold. Others disagreed, saying her personal time is her own, as long as she's not violating any department rules. While there's no official word yet on whether Mercado will face consequences as of the release of this video, this isn't the first time an NYPD officer has been at the center of controversy over off-duty activities. Supporters argue Mercado wasn't in uniform, didn't reference the NYPD, and was simply exercising her personal freedom. Critics, however, believe that being a public servant comes with higher expectations, particularly in a unit handling sensitive cases. Some also question whether this could undermine the credibility of her work. So what do you think? On one hand, she didn't commit a crime or misrepresent the department. She wasn't in uniform, she wasn't on duty, and off-duty time is off-duty time, right? On the other hand, working in law enforcement means you're never really off the clock. This kind of attention could hurt the NYPD's reputation, and given that she works in SVU, handling sensitive cases with vulnerable victims, appearing in a raunchy video could make her credibility an issue. Plus, the only reason this even became a problem was that the video went viral and spread through the department, which probably didn't help her reputation on the force. So should a police officer be allowed to do something like this in their personal time? Is it just her business, and she'll deal with the fallout, or does it reflect poorly on the department as a whole? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Click to watch one of these next videos.